Okay, so here are those examples I mentioned. Hopefully you've already worked them out before you found this answer key video. And let me just reiterate, I'm assuming you know how to factor. All you are needing to do is remembering how to actually make certain these quadratic equations are in the right format so you can finish solving. Cool? Okay, so let's look at number 1. I have a second degree equation. It must be equal to 0 to factor correctly. And so, did you factor it already? Okay, let's see if we get the same thing. I end up with n plus 7 quantity times n plus 2 quantity equals 0. Good? Good. Now remember from the lecture video on the refreshing our brains on how to solve this. If a times b equals 0, then either the first quantity is equal to 0 or the second quantity is equal to 0. That's how we can split it apart like this. And so we end up with two nice linear equations. And these are our two answers. Good? Cool. Okay. Now let's look at number 2. Oops. That's number 2. Now I have a second degree equation. Is it set up correctly? Now some of you might say yes, because some of you might be, hey, I just want to divide both sides by x. And I get the temptation to do that. But here's my word of caution. The power tells me how many answers I'm supposed to get. I'm supposed to have 2 answers here. If you divide both sides by x, you get rid of one of the answers. Oops, don't do that. Remember, when you have a second degree equation, it must be equal to 0. And I prefer the coefficient of x squared to be positive. So I choose to subtract the 36x on both sides. Good? Okay. And now, this is quite nice to factor. Remember the first step of factor. Take out what's in common, factor out what's in common. There's a 6 as well as an x in common with these two terms. And when I factor that out, when I divide that out, I end up with x minus 6. Good. And now I remember, if a times b equals 0, then one of them has got to be 0. So in this case, x is either equal to 0 or x is equal to 6. Very good. Cool? All right. Let's look at number 3. So, number 3 looks familiar. Kind of looks like number 2, doesn't it? All right. How many solutions are you supposed to get? 2. So should you divide both sides by n? Very good. No. So set it equal to 0. My coefficient of n squared, I want it to stay positive, so I'm going to subtract 25n on both sides. This is another nice one to factor because my very first step of factoring is to take out what's in common. I'm noticing both terms have an n in common, so I can factor out that n, and I am left with 3n minus 25. Do you agree? Good, 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 good. All right. So if a times b equals 0, then either a equals 0 or b equals 0. Right? This one's already solved for us. N equals 0. There's n's already by itself. This one, yeah. Add the 25 to both sides and then divide by 3. And stay off the calculators because I didn't ask for a decimal and I didn't ask for a mixed number. So you have 2 answers. N is equal to 0 or n is equal to 25 over 3. Good? Good. Okay, let's look at this one. Ooh, this one is very interesting. You're like, hey, it's already factored. Look. I would agree, except what's it equal to? I know it's equal to 24. It has to be equal to 0, and it's not, which means this isn't factored correctly. This is them trying to fool us. So to be honest with you, I'm going to have to distribute to get rid of the parentheses so I can see what's going on the left. And now I'm like, okay, there's the second degree equation, but it's not equal to 0. So I'm going to have to minus the 24 on both sides and make sure it's equal to 0. Now I can factor it because it's equal to 0. Good? Okay, so again, I'm assuming you know how to factor these. And if you're uncertain, please go watch the lecture video I have on factoring. I have a little more detail on that than what I'm able to do here, but that's okay. I know you've got this. These aren't too bad. Okay, if A times B equals 0, then either the first quantity is equal to 0 or the second quantity is equal to 0, right? Okay, which means in this case, n is equal to 6 or n is equal to -4. Loving it. All right, if you want some more practice with getting these set up correctly and finish solving them, I've got a few more examples to follow. Oh yeah, and a couple of them include fractions. So, if you're like, nope, good with this, don't need to work on those other examples you have coming, then great, no problem. You know what is best for you, right? Okay, so I think that's it for now. Catch you on the flip side.